A sleek, futuristic flying craft glides through the air over scrub-covered lands with deep, rocky rifts shrouded in mist. The craft soars low over the land as animals run beneath and herders wave up at it. We cut to the crew inside the aircraft, looks of wonder and pride on their faces as they watch the landscape streaking beneath them. One of the passengers stares out of the window, saying in awe, "This never gets old." The craft swings round the edge of a tree-covered mountain and seems to fly directly into it, only to pass through what looks like some sort of interface or protective shield and emerge above a gleaming golden city hidden to the world, boasting soaring skyscrapers and innovative-looking Hyperloop trains. A true city of the future. Can you recognise that scene I'm describing there?
Is it Wakanda?
It is, yes!
Yes.
The ultimate smart city in the Marvel movie Black Panther. Hello, I'm Rebecca Jackson, racing driver, TV presenter and motoring expert. Welcome to Where's My Flying Car from IAM Road Smart, the podcast where we ask, are the promises of fantastical transport in science fiction possible? And if so, what are the facts? Today, I'm joined by Paul Wilson, Chair of the Smart Cities World Advisory Board, to talk all about smart cities. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. We referenced Wakanda earlier, and there are multiple science fiction movies that feature these futuristic cities, some bleaker than others. But what do we actually mean by the term smart city, and how does smart transportation fit into this?
Well, a smart city is a city that is using digital infrastructure and data to optimize some of the operations of that city. So that's a simple sentence to say, but then you might think about it a little bit longer and say, well, what do you mean a city's operations? And that might go all the way from infrastructure, like transport infrastructure or energy, water infrastructure, through a built environment, through to the way that people live, move, and enjoy or don't enjoy the city that they live in, from well-being. So it goes from sort of deep infrastructure through the built environment into the life, economy, culture, nature, well-being of a city. So smart cities is a big concept.
And how does smart transportation fit into this?
A city that has bad transportation doesn't feel very smart. It leads to frustrated people. It can lead to poor air quality. It can lead to just a bad economy as well. Mm-hmm. So smart transport is an important part of building a smart city.
This leads us into a little segment that we like to call Are We There Yet? Where we look at how close we are to this technology becoming part of our everyday life. So I'm going to ask you some more questions now. Do smart cities currently exist, and which cities are leading the way?
I think you've got to think of smart cities as more of a journey than a destination. It's not an on or off. So there are a lot of cities around the world that are using data, digital, to optimize different parts of the life of the city. In China, in fact, where there is a lot of tech being thrown at city operations, largely because the population doesn't have a say in it. And there's a great deal of enthusiasm for that. And you actually see that in other parts of Asia as well. So there's probably more advancement in places like Korea, Japan, Singapore than there is over in Europe. Dubai always stands out as another example of a very smart city.
You mentioned that some of the inhabitants, the inhabitants don't have a say. What is some of the technology that perhaps people in Britain might find a little challenging to adopt right now?
I've been in a smart city in China where, as I got on a bus, facial recognition on the bus took money from a wallet that had been created for me for the purposes of the visit. And money was taken from my wallet to pay for the bus journey, and that wallet was held by the city authority. So I didn't have to pay for the bus. And then you could, say, well, the city authority had a record that I'd got on that bus at that time and the payment. So they could have intelligence about my movement, which we in Britain would probably find to be an alarming thing to happen. Mm-hmm. But the experience of the millions of people who experience this is just, frankly, getting on a bus, for free, or so it feels, and it's not free,
Mm.
but no need to pay at that point. And they love it, and they're actually very comfortable with it.
Okay, that is interesting. Bit of cultural differences there. What problems will smart cities solve and why are they needed?
I think you just have to step back a little bit on that one and say, why are we doing this? Is this just the next wave of tech that benefits tech companies? Or is there a deeper reason why we might do this? And to explain that, when I was born, there was about 3.5 billion people on the planet. Today, it's about 8.2 billion. And it's expected to go up to about 10 billion people. In 2012, half of these people were living in cities. And by about 2050, it'll be 3/4 of people will be living in cities. This means that every single week, 1 million more people are either born into or move into a city than they did the week before. Every single week, another 1 million urban dwellers. This is called rapid urbanization, creating a lot of challenges in a lot of places. So the idea of smart city is, could we use technology, which we all experience all around us all the time, to improve the life and quality of life of us living in cities? It seems like a pretty obvious thing to try and do. And then there's a third pillar which has to be thought about. So you've got rapid urbanization, you've got rapid developments in technology, and we also have a rapid escalating climate crisis. So a lot of the smart city thinking ends up putting those three things together, and we might actually today talk more about smart and resilient cities, particularly as we see things like Los Angeles going on fire, or Valencia getting flooded, or we experience 40-degree heat in London. These are issues that mean we've got to put all of these things together to help with the benefit of actually living in a city for people and nature.
So let's talk about a little bit more in detail about smart transportation. What could this look like? For example, real-time traffic monitoring, connected vehicles, although we do have a whole episode on V2X technology. But if we could just talk a little bit about that, would be great.
Well, look, as I said earlier on, a congested city doesn't feel very smart, and congestion is a big problem. I think London is the fifth most congested city according to TomTom's survey. And if you try to travel 6 miles in London, your average speed will be 11.2 miles an hour.
Wow.
Edinburgh, not much better, 13 or so miles per hour. And Southampton sees its congestion going up by a third in the last couple of years. So congestion is a pain all over Britain and all over the world. One reason why is something like 1/4 of all journeys in cars are less than a mile.
Wow.
60% of journeys are done with one person in the car, and about 70% of journeys are 5 miles or less. So cars are being used everywhere. So I'm not anti-car, I'm pro-mobility. I want to get somewhere. I actually, I'm pro-transport, but our cities are being clogged up with cars. If you try and move 60 people and you do it in the cars, imagine the amount of road space for that, versus bicycles or versus a bus. Of that, the bus is by far the most efficient way of transporting 60 people about, just in terms of the amount of space it takes up on the road. So whilst my journey is super important to me, very important, frankly, to everyone else, I'm just traffic. And I'm traffic that's annoying everybody else. So it's not smart to just be using more and more cars, even though cars are symbols of freedom and economic prosperity. Actually, as time's going by, we have to think about how we're managing our mobility in urban environments.
Talking about managing mobility in urban environments, how can we improve public transportation in relation to smart cities to get people using the public transport as opposed to so many cars on the road?
Well, there's another thing happening in cities everywhere, which is called densification. So if you think back to after the Second World War, what we did is we built suburbs, and many cities built roads out to the suburbs. Living in the centre of town was a bit of a ghetto-y bad thing to do. But actually flipped to where we are now, we see the people living more in the middle of cities. We see more housing development going on in the middle of town. And actually it stops the need to actually be always driving around, because you're already in town where maybe your work is, shops are, culture is happening, and so on. People are needing to own a car less. They're using active travel, as it's called, more. Walking, cycling, micromobility. And we probably need to think more about road safety when it comes to scooters, bikes, because there's lots of people now trying to use some of the same pavement for walking and active travel. So it's a different thing. It no longer feels like a stigma to be getting on a bus. I get on a bus and I don't feel like, oh, it's a stigma.
It's quite good fun, isn't it?
I don't mind getting on a bus, particularly in London, with apps that tell you what bus to travel. I wouldn't have managed buses before because I didn't really know where they went. Now I just put it in and I move around in London on underground and bus or scooters and bikes.
So is that part of the puzzle then, is to make it a bit easier for people to catch the bus, whereas before people weren't entirely sure where they had to go, which bus to catch, etc. And now digital technology using apps is making it easier for people.
Yeah, I think lots of people do say that buses are unreliable. There's not enough of them. I don't know when they're going to turn up. There's always lots of reasons why buses are bad. But if we just go back to that stat earlier, about a quarter of all journeys are less than a mile.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably why we have such a large amount of congestion. And there are an enormous number of health benefits to the population as a whole for moving more, be it walking, cycling.
And you see so much when you walk and cycle.
Yeah, you do, don't you? And then I know older people say, well, I don't have the mobility that I need to be able to do that. I need to get into my car. So these are all, objections. But I think we need to understand that this is not an anti-car thing that's going on. It's a pro-mobility thing. And actually just getting away from the only thing I can do is get in my car is no longer the way that I think a lot of people are thinking about traveling in an urban setting.
Absolutely. So how do smart cities specifically help with all of that?
So smart cities are all about the connectivity from vehicle to infrastructure. And we see all sorts of things going on and all sorts of futuristic, exciting things and many trials of different things, so that you can call up autonomous vehicles on demand. And you see that happening in America, you see it happening in other parts of Asia, actually, where you can have autonomous taxis arrive. You see other types of vehicles doing deliveries. In Milton Keynes, I know they have it, where there are little robots doing the deliveries of the last mile delivery. All of these are connected devices, vehicles. You see it with scooters here, where you can and can't get into certain parts. You can't go into a park. The scooter powers itself down. It's geofenced. It actually scooter knows where it is. And that's because it's connected up to into the internet. And it will slow down as it enters a place where it shouldn't be going. So these are all connected smart devices or Internet of Things devices for transport.
Absolutely. And what are the main challenges to developing cities and transportation in this way?
There's a strong and powerful car lobby, isn't there, that has been telling us how we need to own our own car. I feel I own my own car, and as I get to the next car that I choose, I begin to wonder, do I actually really need to own my own car, really? Because, as I say, in town, I largely use different types of transport, and on longer journeys I probably can rent one for a while or go on train or bus. I think after the war we all thought that owning our car was the most important thing, as a sort of prowess and status thing.
Status symbol.
And I think that's beginning to change. We see young people very dramatically taking less and less taking their driving tests, both in America and Europe. If you look at the data, lots less are young people.
Is that because of expense mainly?
Yes, it is. It's more an expense issue than it is an environmental issue, but probably both are playing into it. Yeah.
Interesting. And will smart cities get smarter over time? You've already mentioned that it's not a destination. We're sort of, evolving as we go along. So presumably they will, but if you could just go into that in a bit more detail.
Some cities have done a very good job of organizing the data in the city into a very good data lake of data, be it from the transport system, be it from air monitoring, be it from water, power, be it from footfall in cities. And they've got their data really well organized. Well, the next big thing to happen is to add AI into that. There's a lot that can happen next. And some cities the most exciting thing is called sovereign cities, where they begin to have a degree of control over the data of how the city works. And actually politicians might be elected on their approach to optimizing the performance of the city. So this is an exciting next step that's beginning to happen now with the advent of AI. And the other thing to mention probably is smart city started as a very big city idea, top down, one big smart city. Well, that's quite ambitious and complex. So what began to happen is facets of the city, like a train station or the airport or a hospital or a university campus or a sports facility, began to create something called digital twins of their place. And these have become part of the operation of those assets, those place-based assets. And this sort of bottom-up digital twin is now owned and paid for by the owners of those places. And the next question comes is it worth and possible to create interoperability between those digital twins where it makes sense? Not in all cases does it make sense to do that, but there might be, particularly for transport, when you've got a big sports occasion or a large concert happening, the transport infrastructure is going to be impacted on that.
Absolutely.
Will the owner of the stadium or the festival ground work with the transport system to optimize the way that it flows on that very busy day? And this would create interoperability between those two big actors in the city. Again, AI has the potential to do a lot of what these things get called ontologies or data sets.
Yeah.
AI can bring them together and make them work together.
And how are they doing that? Are they doing staggered entry or something like that, or discounted tickets if you buy your train ticket at a certain time to travel at a certain time?
Well, the answer is all of the above. There's a great story from the Olympics in Paris where in some of the stadiums there, they had sensors on every seat. And if there was no one in that seat for 45 minutes, they would resell the ticket.
Wow.
So that they were optimizing the amount. So if you hadn't shown up, I mean, you had a chance to go to the loo or to go to the bar. But
if you do it within 45
yeah, right.
minutes.
You've got to have your bum on the seat within that time, or the seat gets resold. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
And yeah, right. I mean, there's lots of people want to have a seat at the stadium in the Olympics. Yeah, I was impressed by that one. And then you link it in with transport systems as well. So yeah, you've got to stagger things or give discounts for different ways of incentives. All of these things work.
And so our current infrastructure and road systems, how much will they need to adjust in order to accommodate the smart city as it evolves?
I think that point of densification is real. I gave you stats about the world's population going up. But the UK population has also gone up about 20% in the time I've been alive. And urbanization has happened in Britain. And we see, we know of a housing crisis, don't we? So this densification of housing is the issue, I think, where suburbs which were built for cars, or cars and roads built to empower suburbs, was how we built cities after the Second World War. Today, we're now repopulating the centres of towns all over Britain.
Yeah.
And we're moving away from that need to commute into work for half an hour and join the rush hour.
We're going to move on now to what have we learned today? We have learned so much today. Well, I have. And there are 3 key takeaways that I would like to highlight. So the first one is by 2050, about 3/4 of people will be living in cities. The second one, 1/4 of all car journeys are less than a mile. So improvability is key to smart cities. And the third one, which you might want to say a little bit more about as well, is that digital twins and vehicle to infrastructure connectivity are key to the development of smart cities. Would you agree?
I would agree. I mean, a digital twin is really just a sort of digital copy of a physical place or process. And that use of digital twins to the vehicle, to infrastructure, is exactly what cities need to become smart. That's right.
Very, very useful. I want to end on a few quick fire questions that I'm going to throw at you. Are you ready?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
You have to be ready. You've got no choice, I'm afraid.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Your favourite smart city function, and it can be theoretical or real.
In Poland, they have little mussels that in the water supply, and they've put Internet of Things devices on the mussels So when the mussels close, the water quality is not good enough. They impact the water quality and the water supply. So this is like a partnership between nature and high tech. And they're doing it, so they've put literally, it's really funny to see if you go online.
That's
look,
amazing.
yeah, mussels that close because
Yeah.
the water's gone a bit too dirty.
Wow.
And then open again when the water's clean enough. And that's monitored. And then they change the water supply. That's called a nature-based solution. Isn't that great?
That's so clever. What changes in cities do you think will have the biggest impact on our lives?
In Britain, I do think the densification of our city centres will be a dramatic thing that happens in the next 10, 20 years. More and more people living in the middle of town, walking to work, walking to shops. That less focus on suburbs, more on the middle of town.
Yes. Finally, favourite futuristic city in a movie?
A city called Theed, which is on this planet of Naboo in Star Wars. I don't know if you know it, but it's where Princess Padme Amidala comes from. I love it because it's a combination of beautiful nature, beautiful architecture, and a seriously advanced technology that just works without going wrong. What a place to live. When they filmed it in Lake Como, Seville, and near Naples. So this is just a beautiful, very lovely place to live. I'd love to live there.
It sounds gorgeous. I'm packing my bags already.
Great.
Thank you, Paul, for joining us today.
Been really fascinating. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. We'll be back next episode where we'll be joined by Professor Colin Lee from Queen's University Belfast to talk about vehicle to everything technology.